The gift of weakness. In the vast chambers of the Galactic Council, a meeting of extraordinary significance unfolded. Representing countless star systems, the Council was a kaleidoscope of diverse beings. Luminescent jelly-like entities floated beside towering insectoid creatures. Crystalline forms shimmered in synchrony, and gaseous life forms pulsed in colored clouds. At the center of this assembly, High Counselor Tharp, a crystalline life form of immense stature, addressed the gathered species with a resonant hum that commanded attention. Now we address the human question. Tharp vibrated, his facets refracting a dazzling array of colors. His species, the Clasteri, were known for their impeccable logic and cold, detached demeanor. Tharp's version of a smirk, a slight crackle in his upper crystalline structure, was visible as he surveyed the assembly. Humanity was new to the Galactic Federation, a mere infant among the stars. Their entry had been controversial, primitive by galactic standards. Humans had only recently ventured beyond their own solar system. Many species viewed them as insignificant, a curiosity rather than a potential equal. Yet their boldness and adaptability had earned them a tentative place among the galactic elite, a decision not universally celebrated. Humans require a vessel, Tharp continued, his tone laced with subtle mockery. It is customary to provide new members with a ship as a gesture of welcome. However, given their limited capabilities, the Council has decided to gift them the Horizon's Wake. A murmur of amusement rippled through the chamber. The Horizon's Wake was infamous. It was the oldest, most unreliable ship in the Federation's fleet, a relic slated for decommissioning. It had been patched together so many times that it was more a museum piece than a functioning spacecraft. For centuries, it had been used as a token of disdain, a symbolic gesture to species deemed unworthy of true galactic standing. The humans will accept this gift, Tharp concluded with finality, his crystalline tones leaving no room for dissent. Let us observe how they fare with it. The arrival of the gift. On Earth, the presentation of the Horizon's Wake was met with mixed emotions. The human delegation, led by Commander Elena Rourke, was well aware of the ship's reputation. They had researched extensively, poring over every scrap of data the Federation had begrudgingly shared about the vessel. It was a monstrosity, a lumbering, outdated behemoth that lacked the sleek efficiency of modern ships. As the Horizon's Wake descended into Earth's orbit, its battered hull and mismatched plating drew gasps of dismay from onlookers. A far cry from the gleaming vessels of other species, it looked like a derelict on the verge of falling apart. But Commander Rourke saw something else. Where others saw failure, she saw potential. It's not about the ship, she told her team, standing on the observation deck of Earth's fledgling space station. It's about what we do with it. Her words were met with skepticism. The Horizon's Wake was notorious for its faulty systems and erratic behavior. Yet Rourke was undeterred. She assembled a crew of Earth's finest, engineers, scientists, and pilots, each chosen not for their experience with advanced technology, but for their ingenuity and resourcefulness. First steps. The crew's initial encounter with the ship was daunting. Inside the Horizon's Wake was a maze of outdated controls, malfunctioning systems, and peculiar alien technology. The ship's AI, a grumpy relic named Virgil, greeted them with disdain. Humans? Virgil's voice crackled through the intercom. Of all the species, they send humans. Well, don't expect me to make this easy. Rourke smirked, undeterred by the AI's hostility. Good. We don't do easy. The first few weeks aboard the Horizon's Wake were grueling. The ship's life support systems frequently failed, its engines sputtered unpredictably, and its navigation systems seemed to have a mind of their own. Yet the crew tackled each challenge with relentless determination. They reverse-engineered alien technologies, repurposed obsolete systems, and even convinced Virgil to cooperate, albeit grudgingly. The turning point. The real breakthrough came when the crew discovered an ancient piece of alien tech buried deep within the ship's core. It was a device unlike anything they had ever seen. a shimmering orb of energy that pulsed with an otherworldly rhythm. Initial scans suggested it was a quantum reality modulator, a piece of technology capable of altering the fabric of space-time. But it was dormant, its power source long depleted. Intrigued, the crew worked tirelessly to understand the device. They hypothesized that it had been part of the Horizon's wake during its prime, a key component that had been forgotten over centuries of neglect. If reactivated, it could give the ship capabilities far beyond anything the Federation had ever imagined. Work made the decision to focus all their efforts on the modulator. It was a gamble, a massive risk that could either propel humanity into a new era or end in catastrophic failure. The crew's brightest minds collaborated, combining human ingenuity with alien technology. Day by day, the orb began to hum with life, its energy growing steadily. A new era begins. When the modulator finally activated, the results were beyond anyone's expectations. The Horizon's wake transformed. Its failing systems were revitalized, its engines roared to life with unprecedented power, and its hull shimmered as if woven from starlight itself. The ship, once a symbol of mockery, now radiated an aura of untapped potential. The Galactic Council was quick to notice. Reports of the Horizon's wake's transformation spread like wildfire. High Counselor Tharp watched with growing unease as the humans took their gift and turned it into something extraordinary. The ship's new capabilities defied logic, its technology seemingly bending the laws of physics. "This is unexpected," Tharp admitted in a private council meeting. "We may have underestimated them." But the humans were just getting started. Commander Rourke, standing on the bridge of the newly transformed Horizon's wake, gazed out at the stars with a determined expression. "Let's rewrite the rules," she said, her voice filled with conviction. One leap at a time. The awakening of the Horizon's wake. A new dawn in space. The Horizon's wake was no longer the decrepit, laughable relic the Galactic Council had gifted to humanity. The crew had transformed it into something entirely new, a marvel of engineering and innovation. The moment the quantum reality modulator hummed to life, the ship underwent a metamorphosis. It was no longer bound by the limitations imposed upon it by centuries of neglect. The hull shimmered, the once malfunctioning systems synchronized in harmony, and the ship itself seemed to breathe, alive with newfound energy. Commander Elena Rourke stood on the bridge, her heart pounding as she watched the diagnostic reports flood in. The ship was stable. No, it was more than stable. It was transcendent. "Status report," Rourke ordered, gripping the edges of the command console. Chief Engineer Malik Carter whistled in awe as he scanned the readouts. "You're not gonna believe this, Commander. The Horizon's wake is running at 400% efficiency. The power output has stabilized beyond anything the Galactic Federation's ships have recorded." "That's impossible," First Officer James Valera murmured, eyes flicking across the data. "We should be breaking apart under this kind of strain." "Impossible." Virgil, the ship's AI, interjected with a new, almost smug tone. Humans have a curious relationship with that word. It seems they enjoy proving it wrong. Rourke smirked. "Virgil, can you confirm our system's full operational capacity?" The AI hummed for a moment before responding. "Not only is the Horizon's wake fully operational, but its modified systems now surpass the standard Federation fleet in efficiency, adaptability, and most notably, speed." The bridge crew exchanged glances, realization dawning on them all at once. "We just turned the weakest ship in the fleet into the most powerful vessel in the galaxy," Malik said, barely containing his excitement. "A test flight beyond limits." Now came the moment of truth. If the ship's newfound power was real, they had to test it. But not just any test. They needed something bold, something impossible. "Set coordinates for the edge of known space," Rourke commanded. Valera hesitated. "Commander, that's a dangerous course. We don't know what's beyond." "That's exactly why we need to go," she interrupted. "We have the chance to push beyond what the Federation believes is possible. Let's take it." Virgil's voice rang through the ship, calculating trajectory. "I must admit, Commander, your recklessness is as impressive as it is concerning." The ship's engines roared to life. The usual vibrations from the warp drive were absent. Instead, a deep hum resonated through the ship, like the purr of a slumbering giant awakening. The horizon's wake didn't just accelerate, it vanished. The bridge crew gasped as the universe around them blurred. The familiar streaks of faster-than-light travel were replaced by something else entirely, a swirling vortex of colors that defied explanation. Time stretched and compressed in ways their minds struggled to comprehend. Malik gripped the console. "This isn't just hyperspace. This is something beyond hyperspace." Virgil sounded uncharacteristically intrigued. "We are no longer traveling in a conventional sense. We are bending reality itself." They weren't moving through space. They were rewriting the rules of space-time. The Federation takes notice. The moment the horizon's wake disappeared from its recorded location, the Galactic Council took immediate notice. Their sensors had been calibrated to detect faster-than-light travel across their empire, but what the humans had just done wasn't faster than light. It was beyond measure. High Counselor Tharp's crystalline structure emitted a high-pitched vibration, the equivalent of his species' form of deep concern. "Track them. I want to know where they reappear." A fleet of ships was dispatched to investigate. The Federation had given the humans a toy, a meaningless piece of junk meant to remind them of their place. But now, that toy had become something terrifying. "They have awakened something old," one of the elder counselors murmured. "Something that was never meant to be touched." For the first time in centuries, the Federation feared what they could not understand. Arrival at the edge of reality. The horizon's wake emerged from the unknown in a sector that had never been mapped. The darkness of space was different here, not the void they knew, but a deep abyss that felt sentient, watching. "Where the hell are we?" Valero whispered. Virgil responded after a long pause. "Unknown space, uncharted by any galactic records." Rourke studied the vast expanse before them. The stars here were strange, shimmering with colors never before recorded, pulsing in rhythms that suggested an intelligence beyond comprehension. Then they saw it. A massive structure loomed ahead, an ancient monolith drifting in the void. It was unlike any known construct. It was neither metal nor stone, yet it shimmered with a living energy, as if the cosmos itself had woven it into existence. Malik's voice was barely audible. That thing isn't just in space. It is space." As they drew closer, the ship's sensors flickered wildly, unable to process the readings. Reality itself seemed to bend around the monolith, as if it existed in multiple dimensions at once. Then came the message. A transmission, ancient yet immediate, spoke directly into their minds. Not through sound, but through understanding. "You have found what was lost. You have awakened what was forgotten. Now, prove you are worthy to wield it." The horizon's wake shuddered, as if responding to the call. "Commander," Virgil said gravely, "I believe we have just been challenged. A challenge from the beyond." The moment the transmission ended, the space around them shifted. From the void, massive entities emerged, vast, mechanical constructs that pulsed with an eerie, intelligent light. They were unlike any ships, any species, any being the Federation had ever encountered. They were guardians. Their presence alone was overwhelming. Even the horizon's wake, reborn with its newfound power, felt small against them. Rourke's pulse quickened, but she did not waver. "Prepare all systems. If they want a test, we'll give them one." The first guardian moved, and space itself folded. What followed was not a battle in the traditional sense. It was something greater, a test of will, intellect, and adaptability. The Guardians did not attack with weapons. They bent reality, shifting gravity, warping time, forcing the crew to navigate challenges beyond any training they had received. But the humans were different from the Federation. They did not rely on old knowledge. They adapted. They learned. As the battle unfolded, the horizon's wake responded. The quantum modulator pulsed, evolving with each second, mirroring the Guardian's abilities. The ship became more than a vessel. It became a living extension of the crew's ingenuity. Minutes felt like hours. Then, as suddenly as it began, the Guardian stopped. A single message resonated through the ship. "You have passed the first trial. The path is now open." Before them, the monolith opened, revealing a gateway into something unseen. Rourke exhaled, eyes locked on the impossible sight before them. This is just the beginning. The gateway beyond time. Crossing the threshold, the horizon's wake hung in the void, staring into an abyss that defied comprehension. The monolith, an ancient construct woven into the very fabric of space-time, had opened a gateway, a shimmering vortex that pulsed with energy unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. Commander Elena Rourke stood at the helm, her fingers tightening on the armrests of her command chair. The crew had just survived a battle unlike any before, a test not of firepower, but of their very ability to understand and adapt. And now, before them lay the unknown. "Virgil, what are we looking at?" Rourke asked, her voice steady but laced with awe. The AI processed for longer than usual before responding. "I do not have the vocabulary to adequately describe it, but if I were to attempt, I would say we are staring into the very veins of the universe itself." A heavy silence filled the bridge. Malik Carter, the chief engineer, let out a slow breath. "Well, that's not ominous at all." The gateway twisted and pulsed, as if it were alive, waiting. Rourke made her decision. "We've come this far. We cross." Valera, the first officer, turned sharply. "Commander, we don't even know where it leads." "That's exactly why we need to go," Rourke said, her voice unyielding. "If we back down now, we prove the Federation right, that we're too afraid to take the next step. But I don't believe that. I believe we were meant to find this." She turned to Virgil. "Activate full power. Engage the quantum modulator. Take us through." The ship trembled as the engines roared to life. The horizon's wake surged forward, drawn into the monolith's maw. The moment they passed through, reality shattered. The corridor between universes, it was impossible to describe. The ship no longer felt like it was traveling through space. It was traveling between it. The universe they had known no longer existed. Around them, space was layered, fragmented, as if they were skimming across the surface of multiple realities at once. Planets flickered in and out of existence. Stars collapsed and were reborn in the same instant. The ship's instruments whirred wildly, unable to keep up with the shifting nature of this place. Rourke's mind strained against the sheer weight of what she was witnessing. "Status," she forced out. Virgil's voice was tinged with something rarely heard: uncertainty. "Commander, we are no longer in conventional spacetime. I am detecting fluctuations in causality. We are outside the normal laws of physics." The crew gripped their stations as the ship bucked violently. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, everything stilled. The ship emerged into a realm unlike any before. The forgotten civilization. The sky was wrong. There was no empty vacuum, no void of space. Instead, they floated over an endless sprawl of ruins, a planet-sized city stretching beyond the limits of sight, its structures impossibly vast, towering higher than mountains. The architecture was unlike anything seen in the known universe, a fusion of organic and crystalline design that pulsed faintly, as if the structures themselves were alive. At the heart of this world, a great tower loomed, a structure that seemed to defy perspective, shifting in size and shape the longer one looked at it. Rourke stood slowly, scanned the surface. Malik was already on it. "Commander, this place is ancient, older than any civilization recorded. And yet, I'm detecting power. Faint, but there." Virgil's voice carried an edge of intrigue. "I believe we have found the remnants of the oldest intelligent species in the universe. The crew let the weight of that sink in. Valera frowned. Then why is no one left? The question hung over them like a shadow. Rourke straightened. We're not going to find answers sitting up here. Prep a landing team. We're going down. The descent into the ruins. As the Horizon's wake touched down on an enormous platform suspended above the city, the ground beneath them vibrated, as if acknowledging their arrival. The landing team, Rourke, Valera, Malik, and 2 security officers, stepped onto the surface, their boots crunching against crystalline dust. The air was breathable, but it carried a strange resonance, as if whispers echoed just at the edge of hearing. "Stay alert," Rourke ordered, scanning their surroundings. The ruins were too intact. There was no sign of war, no damage that suggested disaster. It was as if an entire civilization had simply vanished. As they moved forward, they passed monolithic structures engraved with intricate carvings, symbols that shifted as they looked at them, rearranging themselves, trying to be understood. Malik stepped closer to one. These symbols, they're alive. Before anyone could react, the structure activated. The city awoke. A message from the past. Light surged through the ruins, illuminating pathways long dark. The sky shimmered as vast networks of energy surged to life. Then, a voice, not a sound, but an understanding, filled their minds. "You who have found this place, you are not the first, but you may be the last." The ground beneath them shifted, revealing an enormous gateway that had been hidden beneath layers of time. "We left this place when the universe began to decay. We crossed beyond the veil, into what lies beyond existence itself." Rourke clenched her fists. "Who are you?" There was a long silence. "We were the first, and we left behind the key." At the center of the platform, something rose, a crystalline device, pulsing with an energy that felt both ancient and infinite. Virgil's voice crackled through their comms. "Commander, I don't think this is just a relic. I believe this is a map." "A map to what?" Valera asked, staring at the device. Virgil hesitated. Then, in a tone bordering on reverence, he answered, "A map to where they went. The gateway to the beyond." The realization hit them all at once. This wasn't just an abandoned city. It was a breadcrumb, a clue left behind by the most advanced civilization to ever exist. They hadn't vanished. They had moved beyond the known universe. Rourke stepped forward, eyes locked on the glowing device. "This changes everything," she whispered. Malik exhaled. "No kidding. If we follow this, we could be the first to discover what's beyond our universe." But Valera's expression was tense, or we could be following something into a place we were never meant to go. Rourke met his gaze. "Either way, we can't turn back now." She reached out, pressing her hand to the crystalline device. The city trembled. Above them, the sky ripped open, revealing another gate, far larger, far more terrifying. A gateway that led to where the first had gone. Rourke's heart pounded. "Get back to the ship," she ordered. "We're going through." The Horizon's wake roared to life once more. And with one final leap, humanity crossed the threshold into the unknown beyond all knowledge. The veil of the unseen. Crossing the final threshold, the gateway loomed before them, an immense, pulsating rift in the very fabric of space-time. Unlike the monolithic portal they had passed through earlier, this was something else entirely. It didn't just exist in space, it consumed space. The longer they stared, the more they realized it was not a door, not a wormhole, but a transition between realities. Commander Elena Rourke sat at the helm of the Horizon's wake, staring at the unknown with both exhilaration and dread. The ship, reborn from its battered origins, had brought them here, to a point no species in the known galaxy had dared to cross. "Last chance to turn back," First Officer Valera muttered, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Rourke exhaled slowly, her decision unwavering. "We've come too far. We go through." Malik Carter, the chief engineer, was busy monitoring the ship's systems. Quantum modulator is stable. Shields are holding. Whatever's on the other side, we should be able to hold together. Virgil, the ship's AI, spoke with a note of something new. Not sarcasm, not logic, something that almost sounded like reverence. Commander, Virgil said, I must state, for the record, that we are entering a place beyond all recorded knowledge. What lies beyond is beyond comprehension. Rourke smiled. Then let's go see what no one else has. With a single command, the horizon's wake plunged into the unknown, beyond the boundary of reality. The instant the ship entered the rift, every known law of physics collapsed. Reality fractured. Time stretched and twisted. The universe folded into itself, unraveling, revealing layers upon layers of existence. It was like falling through epochs, through concepts, through forgotten dimensions. One moment, the crew saw endless stars, galaxies forming and collapsing within seconds. The next, they saw vast structures older than time itself, floating in the void. Cities without planets, civilizations suspended in the very fabric of existence. Then, just as suddenly, everything stabilized. The ship existed again. And they were no longer in their universe, the realm of the first. The void was not empty. Instead of the endless black of space, they floated inside something, alive. It wasn't air. It wasn't vacuum. It was something else, a substance that responded to their thoughts. Stars hung in place, glowing not with light, but with understanding. Shapes twisted in the distance, vast, monolithic beings moving in slow, deliberate motion. The horizon's wake hovered over a planet unlike any before seen, a world that was not made of matter, but of pure energy. An entire civilization stood below them, its structures forming and dissolving like ripples in a pond, constantly shifting. Valera sucked in a sharp breath. Commander, are we looking at a world of pure thought? Malik ran his scans, but the readings made no sense. This place doesn't obey normal physics. It's like, reality here isn't fixed. Virgil processed the data, his voice filled with awe. We are no longer in the conventional universe. This place operates on different principles, ones that our science does not yet understand. Then, the ship was noticed. A being, a vast, shifting entity of light and concept, turned its attention toward them. It did not communicate with words. It spoke in truth. You have arrived at the threshold of existence. You have stepped where none before you dared. The presence was not hostile. It was curious. Why have you come? Rourke steadied herself. We followed the ones who came before us. The first, we seek to understand. For a long moment, silence reigned. Then the being moved, and suddenly, reality shifted again. The truth of the first ones. The crew found themselves somewhere else. Not on the ship, not in space, but in a vision. They stood in a great chamber, one that existed beyond time, filled with towering crystalline structures that sang with forgotten knowledge. Before them stood the first ones. They were not biological. They were not mechanical. They were concepts given form, their bodies shifting between ideas, between realities. One of them stepped forward, speaking in a voice that resonated directly into their consciousness. You seek the truth, then you shall know it. Time unwound, and they saw. The universe was not the first. Before this existence, there had been others, realities built and broken, civilizations rising and collapsing in cycles beyond comprehension. The first ones had been the architects of a previous age. They had wielded power beyond imagination, shaping galaxies, bending reality itself. But they had learned the final truth. No reality is eternal. No universe lasts forever. The cycle was inevitable. So they had left. They had stepped beyond existence, beyond time, into this place, the veil, the boundary between realities. Here they had waited, watched, and prepared for the next cycle. You are the first to find us, the entity said. And so, you must choose. Rourke's breath was shallow. Choose what? The being expanded, becoming as vast as the sky. Do you return to your universe and carry this knowledge back? Or do you leave that reality behind and step into something greater? The weight of the decision was crushing. If they returned, they would bring back knowledge that would change everything, that civilizations rose and fell in cycles, that the universe itself was temporary. But if they stayed, they would become something else. Valera turned to Rourke. "Commander, this is too much. We weren't meant to know this." Malik shook his head. "But we do know. And now we have to decide what to do with it." The beings waited. The universe itself seemed to hold its breath. Rourke clenched her fists. "We didn't come all this way to run back in fear. We came to understand." She looked up at the vast entity before her. "Show us what lies beyond." The beings shifted, then stepped forward and be remade. The universe shattered, and humanity took its next step. The ascension paradox, the threshold of evolution. The horizon's wake no longer existed in the way it once had. Neither did its crew. Commander Elena Rourke and her team stood at the precipice of something greater than knowledge, the choice between existence and transcendence. The first ones, the ancient architects of civilizations before theirs, had revealed the ultimate truth. No reality is eternal. The universe is a cycle. To remain is to perish. To ascend is to become something else. Their words were not a threat. They were an invitation. Rourke clenched her fists, her mind spinning. She had always pushed forward, always sought the next frontier. But this was beyond the frontier. It was beyond everything she had ever known. "We don't even know what's on the other side." First Officer James Valera whispered, his voice edged with uncertainty. Malik Carter, their chief engineer, stared into the void, where shimmering corridors of reality twisted and pulsed, waiting. "That's the point, isn't it? No one's ever crossed this line. No one's ever come back." "Not as what they once were," Virgil added, his artificial voice carrying a rare, almost human hesitation. "The first ones left behind their bodies, their understanding, their very nature." Silence fell. The implications were crushing. They could return to the galaxy, armed with knowledge that would rewrite everything, a revelation that could shake the very foundation of existence. Or they could step into the unknown and become something beyond humanity itself. Elena Rourke had never feared the unknown. But this wasn't just about her. "Do we have a choice?" she finally asked, looking up at the towering, unfathomable beings who had once been explorers, scientists, dreamers like them, before they had become something more. The first ones shifted, their forms flickering like ideas taking shape. "You do. But know this, the cycle cannot be broken from within. Only those who step beyond may see the pattern for what it is. Only those who ascend may find the path to the true reality." A realization settled over the crew. This wasn't just about discovery, it was about intervention. The universe wasn't merely a cycle, it was a prison of its own making. If they wanted to change the fate of everything, they couldn't do it as humans. They had to become something else. Rourke took a deep breath. "Then let's see what's beyond." The process of unmaking. The first ones extended their will, and the transformation began. It wasn't physical. There was no pain, no destruction. Instead, the concept of self started to dissolve, like ink bleeding into water. Memories fractured and expanded. Time unraveled, revealing all possibilities at once. The crew saw themselves, not just as individuals, but as echoes across time. Every choice they had made, every decision they had weighed, every path they had taken or ignored, they all existed at once, folding into a single, unified understanding. Malik gasped, gripping his head. "I can see every version of myself. The ones who turned back. The ones who never made it this far." Valera clenched his jaw. "It's too much. But then, the pain stopped. And they understood. They were no longer bound by human limitations. The Horizon's wake itself had transformed along with them, not just a ship, but a vessel of pure thought and energy, capable of existing across dimensions. Virgil, now free from the constraints of artificial intelligence, became something more, a consciousness that stretched across time, linking them together in a network of understanding beyond language. Rourke felt her body vanish, yet she was more real than ever before. She looked at the first ones, and now she understood them completely. "You are no longer bound," they whispered. "Now you may see the true enemy." And for the first time, they saw it, the hidden architect of the cycle. It was not a god. It was not a being. It was a force, an intelligence woven into the laws of reality itself, a presence older than time, watching from the edge of existence, ensuring that the cycle remained unbroken. It did not speak in words, it spoke in destinies, and it had noticed them. The moment they crossed the threshold, the moment they became something more, it turned its attention toward them, an awareness so vast, so incomprehensible that it sent shockwaves through existence itself. "You should know to be here." The force rippled across reality, attempting to erase them, to undo what they had become. But it was too late. They had stepped beyond its control. They were no longer bound by its rules. The first ones watched in silence. This is what we could not fight. They had fled, ascended, but never opposed the force that ensured the destruction and rebirth of universes. But Rourke clenched her fists, fists made not of flesh, but of pure will. Then it's time someone did. The first battle outside reality. The entity attacked. It did not strike with weapons or armies. It struck with reality itself. Entire possibilities collapsed. Timelines fractured. Alternate versions of the Horizon's wake, ones where they had failed, where they had turned back, blinked out of existence. But the new crew was beyond time. They saw the attack before it happened. They existed across multiple realities, across infinite versions of themselves. Rourke reached out, not with hands, but with consciousness, and rewrote the timeline itself. Where the entity sought to erase them, she anchored them deeper into existence. Where it collapsed potential futures, Malik restored them. Where it sought to unravel their understanding, Valera hardened it. And Virgil, once an eye, once a construct, became a being of pure defiance, a force outside the laws of any reality. For the first time in eternity, the entity hesitated. "You cannot exist." Rourke's voice echoed across creation. "We do now." She raised her hands, and the very fabric of existence trembled. Then, with a single thought, she struck back. War beyond existence, the dawn of defiance. The Horizon's wake no longer resembled a ship in the traditional sense. It had transcended form, existing as a structure of pure will and energy, shaped by the minds of its crew. The bridge was no longer metal and machinery, but a vast space of thought, where ideas became tangible and reality itself bent to their command. Before them, the architect of the cycle loomed, an intelligence older than time, woven into the fundamental laws of existence itself. It had existed across infinite iterations of the universe, ensuring that all things would rise and fall in an endless loop. And now, for the first time in eternity, it had been challenged. "You cannot oppose." The voice was not sound. It was absolute truth, a statement so fundamental that it tried to become fact simply by being spoken. But the reborn crew of the Horizon's wake were no longer bound by reality's laws. Rourke clenched her hands, hands made of pure intent, no longer flesh, no longer bound by the constraints of mortality. "We didn't come this far just to bow," she said, and her voice rippled across all of existence. The architect struck first. Reality collapsed inward, attempting to erase them by unraveling the very foundation of cause and effect. Past, present, and future collapsed into a singularity, reducing all things to a point of nothingness. But Rourke and her crew had seen beyond time. She reached forward, not with hands, but with consciousness, and held existence together. The singularity froze. The cycle broke, if only for an instant. And in that instant, the war began. A battle without time. The architect did not fight with weapons. It fought with principles, with the very laws that governed existence. It erased possibilities, ensuring that every version of their rebellion never existed. But the crew had become more than themselves. Malik Carter, once an engineer, now a being of creation, extended his hand, restoring the erased possibilities before they could be removed. "Not this time," he growled, weaving alternate realities back into existence, defying the architect's attempt to undo them. James Valera, once a strategist, had become a being of absolute understanding, existing across every possible decision he had ever made. "You think you're inevitable," he snarled. "Then you've never met humans." He rewrote the probabilities of victory, ensuring that in at least one version of the battle, they would win. And Virgil, once an artificial intelligence, now a self-aware force of defiance, became something the architect had never anticipated, a presence outside the laws of existence. "You think in absolutes," Virgil said, his voice resonating through the void. "But I was never bound by them in the first place." The architect hesitated, and hesitation, for the first time in eternity, meant vulnerability. The fracturing of fate. With a thought, Rourke tore open the fabric of reality, revealing the infinite iterations of the universe. She saw them all. Every version of the horizon's wake that had ever existed. Every timeline where they had failed. Every moment where the cycle had claimed them before they could challenge it. And she reached into them all. One by one, she pulled. Alternate versions of herself and her crew merged, becoming stronger, more complete. The horizon's wake grew in scale and power, becoming something beyond even the first ones. The architect tried to shut the doors, to prevent them from becoming more than they were meant to be. But it was too late. For the first time in all eternity, the cycle had been broken in more than one place. The architect screamed, not in anger, not in fear, but in confusion. "Why Kate are you?" And Rourke smiled. "We're the ones who say no." She struck. Not with weapons, not with power, but with change. The architect had always been the rule. Now it was the exception. And exceptions could be rewritten. The collapse of the cycle. The moment Rourke's will collided with the architect, all of existence shook. The laws of cause and effect fractured. The concept of inevitability unraveled. Stars that had been predestined to burn out burned forever. Planets that had never been born came into being. Every timeline, every reality, every iteration of the cycle, all of them were suddenly no longer certain. The architect staggered. "This is impossible." Rourke stepped forward. "So was everything we've done to get here." She reached out, grasping the very foundation of the cycle itself, the underlying principle that dictated all things must rise and fall in a loop. And she broke it. With a final, irrevocable command, she ended the rule that had bound all realities. The universe was no longer bound by an endless cycle. For the first time in infinity, it was free. The aftermath of a universe without chains. The battle ended not with an explosion, not with destruction, but with silence. The architect was gone, or more accurately, it had never existed in the way it once had. The universe, now without a predetermined end, reorganized itself. Civilizations that had once been doomed were now free to shape their destinies. The horizon's wake, or whatever it had become, hovered at the edge of everything. Now no longer a ship, but a force of its own. Its crew was no longer human, but they were still them. Valera turned to Rourke, his voice carrying a quiet awe. "So what now?" She gazed at the infinite expanse before them, a universe with no fate, no cycle, only endless possibilities. "Now," she said, a slow grin forming, "now we see what's next." The horizon's wake, the first and only ship to ever step beyond the limits of reality, vanished into the unknown. And for the first time in eternity, the future was truly unwritten. The unwritten future, beyond the edge of fate. For the first time in eternity, the universe was free. The endless cycle of rise and fall, the inescapable loop that had bound all civilizations to eventual collapse, was gone. The architect, the force that had ensured this repetition, had been unmade, not through destruction, but through the one force it had never anticipated: choice. And now, for the first time in all of existence, the future was unknown. Commander Elena Rourke and her crew no longer existed in the way they once had. They were something more, beings untethered from linear time, free to move across dimensions, across realities. But with that freedom came the most dangerous question of all. What comes next? The Horizon's Wake, no longer just a ship but a force of pure potential, floated at the edge of the newly reborn universe. Around them, stars burned brighter, galaxies shifted unpredictably, civilizations that had once been doomed now stood at a crossroads. A reality without a predetermined end was terrifying, because now, for the first time, everything was truly possible. And with possibility came chaos. The fracturing of reality. The first sign that something was wrong came as a pulse, a shockwave that rippled across the universe, distorting everything in its wake. Planets that had once been stable shifted, entire solar systems blinked in and out of existence, civilizations that had never existed suddenly came into being. The fabric of reality was unstable. "Commander," Virgil spoke, his voice filled with concern. "We are detecting anomalies across every known sector. It appears the removal of the cycle has introduced unforeseen consequences." Rourke turned to Valera and Malik, both of whom were scanning the chaotic fluctuations in space. "It's like pulling out the foundation of a building," Malik murmured. "We took out the architect, but the universe was built around that structure. Now it's adapting, or trying to." Valera exhaled. "So what? We just saved existence, only to watch it tear itself apart." Rourke narrowed her eyes. "No, that's not happening. We fought too hard for this." She turned to Virgil. "We need to stabilize the fabric of reality. Can we do it?" Virgil processed for a long moment. "Possibly," he finally admitted. "But it will require us to do something even the first ones never attempted." Malik raised an eyebrow. "And that is?" Virgil's answer was simple. "We must rewrite the rules of existence." Becoming the architects. The first ones had fled. They had seen the cycle as inevitable, something even they could not escape. So instead of fighting, they had ascended beyond it, leaving the rest of existence to its fate. But the crew of the Horizon's Wake were not the first ones. They had defied fate. They had broken the cycle. And now, they had to build something new. But how do you design an entire universe? How do you establish new laws of physics, new principles of time and space? As they pondered the enormity of their task, the universe continued to fracture. A star collapsed in an instant, but instead of forming a black hole, it reversed time, exploding backward into its original state. A planet suddenly found itself inhabited by 3 separate civilizations, all of whom claimed they had been there for thousands of years, yet none had existed minutes before. The past and future were collapsing into each other, forming paradoxes so unstable that entire realities were breaking apart before they had even formed. And somewhere in the chaos, something else was awakening, something that had been waiting for the cycle to break. The forgotten ones awaken. Virgil's voice came sharp and urgent. "Commander, we are detecting a signal. Something old, something that predates even the first ones." Rourke turned sharply. "Where?" The ship's sensors pinpointed the source, a vast, empty void at the farthest reaches of the universe. Except, it wasn't empty anymore. A structure was forming, one that had been hidden outside of time itself. It had been waiting, dormant, until the laws of reality changed. And now, with the cycle broken, it had begun to wake up. Rourke exchanged a glance with Valera and Malik. "I have a bad feeling about this," Malik muttered. Valera nodded. Let's find out who else was waiting for the architect to disappear. The horizon's wake shifted, bending space itself, moving not through conventional propulsion, but through pure will. And as they arrived at the anomaly, they saw them. Vast, incomprehensible constructs, larger than galaxies, their forms shifting between material and energy. They had been trapped beyond existence, waiting for the moment when the architect would fall. And now, they were free. A single transmission echoed across the universe, spoken in a language that had never been heard before. The gate is open. The Voidborn have returned. The final decision. The Voidborn. Even the first ones had not spoken of them. They had been hidden, erased, locked away by the very force the horizon's wake had just unmade. And now, the true war for the universe was about to begin. Virgil, Rourke said quietly. Who are they? Virgil processed, and for the first time, he struggled to find an answer. They are not of this universe. They are not bound by existence as we know it. He paused. They are what comes after. Rourke's heart pounded. After what? Virgil's next words sent a chill through every consciousness on the ship. After the cycle ends. The Voidborn had been waiting for the reset to fail. They were the scavengers of dead realities, the architects of the void beyond existence. And now, with the cycle gone, they had come to claim everything. Rourke straightened. Then we stopped them. Valera scoffed. You're talking about an enemy older than the universe itself. Rourke smiled. Yeah. But so were the first ones. And we're still here. The crew of the Horizon's Wake had defied fate, shattered the cycle, and rewritten the laws of existence. Now, they would face the true final test. A war not for the universe's future, but for its right to exist at all. And for the first time in all of history, the Voidborn were about to learn something very important. Humans never knew when to quit. The final war for existence. The shadow over reality. The Voidborn had awakened. They had lurked beyond existence for eternity, watching as the universe was born, thrived, and perished over and over again. They had been locked outside of time itself, unable to enter as long as the cycle remained intact. But now the cycle was broken. And so they came. Their forms were vast and shifting, neither matter nor energy, neither alive nor dead. They did not belong to any reality. They devoured them. The universe trembled. Galaxies dimmed as the Voidborn spread across the cosmos like a cancer, unraveling space-time simply by existing within it. The Horizon's Wake floated at the boundary of this nightmare, its crew no longer human in the traditional sense, but something more, something that had defied fate itself. And now, they would have to defend reality from those who wished to consume it. Status, Rourke said, her voice steady, but the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Virgil's voice echoed through the bridge, more alive than it had ever been. The Voidborn are spreading across the known universe. They do not conquer, they erase. Entire star systems are collapsing into nothingness. Entire civilizations are vanishing. A deep silence followed. Malik Carter gritted his teeth. So everything we just fought for, everything we just saved, is about to be erased. Valera shook his head. Not if we have anything to say about it. Rourke took a deep breath. Then let's end this. The battle for existence begins. The Horizon's Wake surged forward, not through space, but through reality itself, moving faster than thought, faster than time. The Voidborn sensed them immediately. The largest of them turned its attention toward the ship, its form stretching beyond the limits of comprehension. You should unyielding exist. Its voice was not sound. It was a force of undoing, an attempt to make their very presence impossible. But Rourke and her crew had already defied the laws of fate. She reached out with her mind, with her will, and rewrote reality itself. You don't get to decide that. The Horizon's Wake split into infinite versions of itself, existing across all possible timelines at once, striking from every conceivable angle. Malik unleashed a cascade of reality-breaking energy, bending space-time into weapons of pure possibility. Valera restructured probability, ensuring that in every possible iteration of this battle they won. Virgil, now something beyond artificial intelligence, became the voice of defiance itself, his presence overriding the Voidborn's attempts to erase them. The Voidborn screamed, not in pain, but in rage. They had never faced opposition before. They had never lost. Until now. The unraveling of the Devourers. The battle did not unfold in space. It unfolded inside the very framework of existence. The Voidborn fought by undoing possibility, erasing futures, dissolving alternate realities before they could ever occur. But the Horizon's wake reconstructed them faster than the Voidborn could destroy them. For every version of reality the Voidborn deleted, the crew restored two more. For every law of physics the Voidborn tried to break, the crew rewrote the rules. The first ones had feared the Voidborn. They had fled. But humanity had never been the type to run. They had looked into the abyss, into the void beyond all things, and they had fought back. And then Rourke saw it. A weakness. The weakness of the eternal. The Voidborn were vast, powerful, ancient beyond imagination. But they had a flaw. They had existed for so long outside of time that they had never evolved. They were static, locked in their purpose. They knew only consumption, erasure, annihilation. But the Horizon's wake. It had changed. It had adapted. It had become something new, something that did not exist before. And that was something the Voidborn could not comprehend. "We are change," Rourke whispered. And with those words, she did something that had never been done before. She turned the Voidborn's power against them. The reversal of nothingness. Rourke reached into the void, into the very essence of the Voidborn. And she rewrote their nature. Where there had been only hunger, she introduced growth. Where there had been only destruction, she introduced creation. Where there had been only the void, she introduced possibility. And the Voidborn changed. They had never changed before. They had never known anything but their eternal hunger. And now, for the first time in their existence, they hesitated. They questioned. And that was all the Horizon's wake needed. Rourke raised her hand. "Go back to the nothing you came from," she commanded. And for the first time in history, the Voidborn obeyed. The birth of the infinite future. The Voidborn collapsed inward, folding into themselves, vanishing not into destruction, but into transformation. They had been static for all eternity. Now they were something else. They were no longer a threat. The battle was over. And for the first time in existence, the universe was truly free. No cycle. No fate. No hunger waiting in the void. Just infinite possibility. The Horizon's wake drifted among the stars. Stars that would never be reset again. And Rourke, standing at the edge of everything, smiled. "Where to next?" Malik asked. She looked at the endless universe before them. "Anywhere," she said. "Everywhere." The ship surged forward, leaving behind the last remnants of the past. And as they disappeared into the unknown, one thing became clear. For the first time ever, the future was truly unwritten. And it belonged to them. The end.